To the Middle East now, where for the first time, two major Israeli human rights groups have accused Israel's government of committing genocide in Gaza. International pressure on Israel to let more aid into the Palestinian territory is growing as a deepening hunger crisis and reports of starvation. While several hundred truckloads of aid have entered Gaza since the weekend, the UN says far more is needed to avert widespread malnutrition. The Israeli non-profit groups B'Tselem and Physicians for Human Rights issued a joint statement on Monday in which they condemned Israel's conduct of the war in Gaza.
Israel is committing genocide against the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The report written by us at B'Tselem presents facts, data and testimonies about how Israel is acting in a deliberate, coordinated and systematic way to destroy the Palestinians in Gaza.
Oh, let's go to DW correspondent Emily Gordine in Jerusalem. Emily, you've just been to that press conference of the human rights organization. What evidence did they present to back up their claims?
Well, according to the Geneva Conventions, genocide is defined as the intentional violent destruction of a distinct group. And what the B'Tselem did in this report is look exactly at what were the intentions of the Israeli government. They looked at statements from political leaders from the very early days of this war that was triggered by Hamas's brutal attacks on October 7th. And what they found were several remarks that essentially marked all of Gazans responsible for the attacks of October 7th, many also calling for the annihilation of Gaza. And from that they derived a clear sign or clear intention to target civilians. Similar remarks were then also heard by high-ranking military commanders and then later on also by soldiers. There's a video, for example, where you can see several Israeli soldiers chanting and calling for the complete annihilation of Gaza. So that for them established the intent, the genocidal intent for their actions. And then they looked at the practices and the actual results over the course of the last 19 months. And they found essentially a combination of what they've called genocidal practices here, such as mass killing, starvation, destruction of civilian and cultural infrastructure, but also of life-sustaining infrastructure like medical facilities. And they added to that, of course, the declared aim of some of Israel's political leaders of what they've called relocating Gaza, but which has been widely understood as the intent of ethnically cleansing Gaza of Palestinians. And together that really painted a very grim picture of Israel's conduct in this conflict. Now, Israel's government, of course, in the past has rejected these claims of committing genocide in Gaza.
Now, pressure on the Israeli government is mounting both domestically and internationally. Macron has voiced support for recognizing a Palestinian state. Friedrich Merz is urging improvements in the humanitarian situation in Gaza. Do you think this will have an impact on Israel's actions in Gaza?
Well, in the long run, that's a very good question that nobody really knows the answer to. In the short term, what we're seeing is Israel trying to show that it is intent on improving the humanitarian situation on the ground in Gaza. But to many, that lacks a certain degree of credibility simply because this is a man-made catastrophe that many of our viewers will have been watching live on their smartphones for the past few months. We've also heard from humanitarian organizations repeatedly. They've been raising the alarm of the catastrophic humanitarian conditions on the ground with rising starvation, with people now, over the last few days, we've seen this, dying from famine. Now, the Israeli government, for its part, has rejected these claims of starvation. But what we are seeing is a reckoning within Israeli society. And that's also something that the report by B'Tselem also touches on. It says that essentially October 7th was a trigger point for what is happening now in Gaza, but they also say that this came at a time when Israel was ruled by the most far-right government it has ever seen. So essentially what they're saying is that this government also took advantage of the situation, and the question is now with Israelis, more and more Israelis starting to question what is going on in Gaza. The question is, of course, how much of an impact will they have on their government to change course in the long run?
DW. correspondent Emily Gordine there. Thank you, Emily.